Yin was busy cleaning the table just vacated by a customer. The above-the-knee black skirt and the slightly tight blouse wrapped neatly around her beautiful figure. Yin didn't particularly like the dress code required at her workplace. But since she worked at an elite club located in the heart of Seoul, she had to wear attire suitable for such a place. Yin lowered her head, once again letting out an irritated sigh as she noticed two people making out passionately at another table. She had seen kissing scenes, or even more, many times before, but it still made her uncomfortable. Yin, a 23-year-old girl, was forced to work as a cleaner in one of the city's biggest clubs. Yin hated her job, or more precisely, she hated the place where she worked. However, considering the salary she received was higher than most jobs out there, Yin pushed aside her dislike. She needed a lot of money. She was an orphan who had to pay off her late parents' debt. Every month, she had to provide installment payments to the loan shark to repay the debt. Yin, once you're done, head to the back. There's a room you need to clean. That voice made Yin turn around. It was Kai, one of the senior workers, whom Yin respected. Kai was a firm man. He was the supervisor for the cleaning staff at the club. He was the one who interviewed and hired her when she still looked innocent. Yes, sir, I'm almost done. Hurry, that room's going to be used again soon. Yin nodded. The room he mentioned was most likely one of those used by customers. Even though it made her uncomfortable, Yin had to turn a blind eye. She worked here. It wasn't her place to meddle in others' business. Sorry miss, I didn't mean to, said one of the men who accidentally bumped Yin's arm. Yin, who was about to walk away from the table, simply nodded politely. It's all right, sir. But the man didn't let Yin leave so easily. I've never seen you before, he said. His gaze, one Yin deeply hated, roamed up and down her body. You're really beautiful for a cleaning lady, he chuckled, licking his lips. Silently, Yin cursed. Damn it, she felt like slapping the disrespectful man who stared at her like a hungry wolf. But Yin knew her place, so she forced a small smile. I'm sorry, sir. I have to get back to work. Wait. The man grabbed Yin's hand. Don't you want to play with me, sweetheart? I'll pay you a good price, he said with a disgusting laugh. But you have to make me happy. Just one night. How about it? Yin hated men like him, those who assumed she was a cheap woman. Her hands clenched tightly. Yes, she worked at a club, but she still had her dignity. I'm sorry, sir. Yin. What are you doing? Get back to the back now. Kai appeared at just the right moment. Yin let out a relieved breath. It wasn't the first or second time Kai had saved her from predators like that. Yin nodded, her smile meaningful. Yes, sir. Thank you, she whispered. Yin left, while the man looked disappointed. She works at the club to clean, not to entertain customers, Kai said before walking away. That was his job, to protect the female cleaning staff from being forced to do what wasn't part of their duties. Jungkook, the owner of the large club where Yin worked, was observing the condition of his club from the second floor. The deafening music, the crowd flooding the dance floor, groups gathering around tables with various activities, everything typically seen in a nightclub, had become part of his daily view. He found utterly revolting. To be honest, Jungkook didn't even like this place. He often wondered why people were willing to spend so much money just for a single night of pleasure. But this club was an incredibly lucrative business passed down from his late father. The money earned from this place was no joke. He had thought several times about selling this club, but the profits from this elite business were simply too tempting. His club was the biggest among the upper-class nightlife scene, an established name since his father's time. The guests weren't just anyone either. Most were super-rich elites, idols, and famous celebrities. Jungkook scoffed cynically as he watched a woman being easily led into the hallway that connected to the private rooms. Cheap woman, he muttered in his heart. Boss. Jungkook only glanced at his personal assistant, now standing beside him, signaling Lee to speak. Everything's secure, boss. This month's income has tripled compared to last month. Jungkook nodded, smirking faintly. That was the reason he kept the club running. You've confirmed no one's playing behind my back? Yes, boss. No suspicious activity like last month. Last month, Jungkook caught someone manipulating the data, which had caused the club's revenue to drop for 2 months. Jungkook had taken care of that person, without involving the police, of course. He preferred handling things his own way. Good, keep watching, Lee. I'm counting on you. Understood, boss. Jungkook's gaze then landed on a girl wearing a cleaner's uniform. He frowned. Lee. Who is she? It seemed this was the first time he had seen her. Lee followed Jungkook's line of sight. There, he saw Yin cleaning a table. That's Park Yin, boss. One of our cleaning staff. Park Yin, is she new? She's been working here for almost 6 months. So why had Jungkook never seen her before? He observed her again. Unlike the other cleaning staff, Yin worked quickly and without a smile. She only nodded when acknowledging customers. Occasionally, she offered a faint smile out of politeness. Does she dislike her job? Yin was beautiful. Jungkook admitted that, even with a tired, slightly sweaty face, her beauty didn't fade. Then Jungkook shrugged indifferently. Yin wasn't his business. He downed the drink in his glass one more time before walking away. Jungkook sat lazily. If it weren't for his friend's insistence, he wouldn't have joined them for drinks. He preferred staying in his private room inside the club. He enjoyed peace and quiet much more than the noisy music that assaulted his ears. He mostly stayed silent and observed. Minju, Yoonwoo, Jaehyun, and Bam Bam, his college friends, were all gathered at his club tonight. Now, all of them were successful men holding high positions in various companies. Laughter filled their table. Minju, Jaehyun, Yoonwoo, and Bam Bam were all grown men who were used to partying at the club. None of them had girlfriends. None were ready to commit to a serious relationship or even think about marriage. Even though they were already 26, they still wanted to have fun. But I'm still curious, Bam Bam said, turning to Jungkook, who had been quiet all this time. Jungkook raised an eyebrow at being stared at. How do you live without being tempted by the women here? Of course, the question was directed at Jungkook. Out of all of them, only Jungkook was still He didn't seem interested in women at all. He hated being touched without permission. A few women had tried seducing him before and ended up embarrassed when he coldly rejected and even scolded them harshly. Yeah, it's strange. You own the club after all, Yoonwoo muttered. What's so strange about it? Jungkook looked at his friends, confused. Jungkook, you still like women, right? Not men? Minju asked stupidly. That earned him a hard punch to the stomach, courtesy of Jungkook. Minju groaned. Even if it was just a playful punch, it still hurt. His face twisted in pain while the others stifled their laughter. Jungkook could be terrifying. I still like women, he answered flatly. Then why won't you fool around like us? Jungkook rolled his eyes in annoyance. The same dumb question again. Do I really need to keep repeating myself? Jungkook had principles, something he'd explained countless times to his friends who kept pressuring him. He wouldn't sleep with anyone unless it was his wife. He was strict with himself, not easily tempted even when his friends shared steamy stories. On the contrary, he was totally against it. He didn't want to risk catching any disease. Well, what do you expect from the ever-kind Jungkook? Yoonwoo snorted mockingly. Right? If he wanted to, he could sleep with a different woman every night. He just needs to point at someone here. No one would say no, Minju added. You should try it just once, Jungkook, Bam Bam encouraged him. I bet you'll get addicted. But Jungkook remained unaffected. He calmly sipped his drink again. Who knew how many glasses he'd already had? It was enough to make him drunk. His head was spinning as he looked at his friends, already slumped over the table. He ignored their rambling. He just wanted to go to his private room. His steps were already unsteady, but Jungkook forced himself to walk. He didn't want to end up being prey for women if he passed out at the table. In the remnants of his consciousness, Jungkook managed to reach his private room. He lazily unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his perfectly sculpted abs. His drunken state made it hard for him to pay attention to his surroundings, until suddenly, ugh! Jungkook growled in frustration. He had knocked over a coffee cup from the nightstand, spilling what was left of the coffee onto the bed, soaking and staining the sheets and pillowcase. Jungkook held his throbbing head in pain. He sat at the edge of the bed and immediately grabbed his phone to call someone. Send one of the cleaning staff to my room right now, he ordered Lee, his assistant. 10 minutes later. The sound of knocking stirred Jungkook, and he immediately opened the door to his room. There stood Yin, her head bowed in a respectful greeting. Jungkook looked at her deeply before gesturing for her to enter, then closed the door behind her. Yin entered Jungkook's private room nervously. It was her first time inside her boss's room. Once inside, she swallowed hard. It was only then, after having kept her head down the entire time, that she realized Jungkook was shirtless. Yin's cheeks flushed red uncontrollably. Jungkook was still wearing long pants, but in her eyes, he looked incredibly handsome and sexy. Jungkook's drowsy eyes continued to stare at her, making Yin flinch. Why are you just standing there? Clean it. Jungkook pointed to the coffee spill on his bed. Yin stiffly nodded. Yes, sir. Jungkook watched as Yin cleaned the spilled coffee. Her bending posture caused her short skirt to ride up higher. Jungkook couldn't take his eyes off her while she worked. Suddenly, he felt a tightness in his chest. For some reason, he imagined being on top of her. Jungkook had seen many sexy women before, but none had affected him as suddenly as this. He couldn't hold back any longer. With a single pull, Yin was already in his arms. "Sir?" Yin gasped in shock. Her body stiffened, and her hands pressed against Jungkook's bare chest. She tried to pull away, but his grip on her waist was too strong. "You're so beautiful," Jungkook praised, his eyes red and drowsy. He had completely lost his senses. "Sir? You're drunk. Please let me go." Yin kept struggling, even though she knew it was pointless. "Can't you stay still?" Jungkook said irritably. "You're making it worse." Yin was momentarily confused until she suddenly felt something. Her face went pale, her body froze. It was the first time she had ever been this close to a man, and more than that, he was her boss. She didn't know what was happening because before she could even process the situation, Jungkook had already kissed her roughly. Yin kept trying to snap Jungkook out of it, reminding him that what they were doing was clearly wrong. She didn't want this. Tears streamed down Yin's face, her gaze filled with pleading desperation. "Shh, be quiet, baby. Just enjoy it." And finally, that night, it happened. Jungkook had completely lost his sanity. The man who had always been so against things like this ended up doing it for the first time. In the morning, Jungkook woke up first. His eyes widened instantly when he saw Yin sleeping in his arms. Memories of the previous night hit him like a wave, and a heavy sense of guilt surged in his chest. He cursed himself. How could he, someone who had always been firmly against things like this, end up losing control and doing exactly what he swore he wouldn't? Slowly, Jungkook pulled his arm away from Yin's body, trying not to wake her. But even that small movement stirred Yin from her sleep. With heavy eyes, she looked at Jungkook, who appeared restless. That's when Jungkook spoke in a flat tone. "If you get pregnant, contact me immediately." Yin remained silent. Her feelings were in turmoil, embarrassment, confusion, disappointment, and heartbreak all at once. She couldn't even fully grasp what had just happened. Jungkook sat at the edge of the bed, intending to get up and head to the bathroom, but when he turned to look at the sheets, his eyes narrowed. There was no trace of blood, his heart filled with anger. He stared sharply at Yin. "So, you're not a Hearing that, Yin instinctively checked the sheets too. It was true. There was only traces of Jungkook himself. She wanted to defend herself, to say that this was her first time, but her lips froze. No words came out. She didn't even know how to explain why there was even though it was her first time. Jungkook grew even more irritated. With a cold, scornful expression, he opened the drawer, pulled out his wallet, and grabbed a thick stack of cash. Without saying much, he placed the money into Yin's hand. "So you're just like the other women here," he said sharply. Yin stayed quiet. Her eyes began to tear up, but she didn't take the money. Even so, Jungkook still pushed the bills into her hand. Then, without looking back, he stood up and walked straight into the bathroom, leaving Yin with a shattered heart. Inside the bathroom, Jungkook stared at his own reflection in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched. His left hand gripped the edge of the sink, while his breath came heavy, burdened with anger and a kind of disappointment he couldn't fully name. "Idiot," he muttered to himself. He splashed his face with cold water, hoping it would help cool down the storm inside him, but it didn't. Yin's face kept flashing before his eyes in the reflection, making his thoughts more chaotic. Somewhere deep in his heart, he had secretly hoped Yin was just like him, that it had been her first time too. That hope had crept in without him realizing it. But when he found when every sign failed to match what he'd hoped for, he was crushed. Yet, as he thought more about it, he realized his disappointment wasn't truly aimed at Yin. It was on himself. He was the one who lost control. He who always held on to principles had become the first to break them. In just one night, everything changed. He didn't just lose control, he lost a part of his dignity. "I hope I stay healthy. I hope I didn't catch anything," he whispered again, almost like a prayer. He wiped his face once more, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes, hoping his emotions would finally settle. And once he felt his mind had calmed enough, he stepped out, only to find the room empty. Yin was gone, but the money he had given her was still lying on the nightstand. It's been almost a month since that night. Both Jungkook and Yin tried to forget it. They continued working as usual. Jungkook and Yin acted like strangers. Even when they accidentally crossed paths, they acted as if they didn't know each other, as if nothing had ever happened between them. 1 month later, Yin collapsed onto the bathroom floor. She buried her head between her knees. Her body trembled, and tears flowed uncontrollably. She sobbed, out of fear, but also deep disappointment in herself. She had failed to protect herself, and now, she was pregnant. Her body felt weak, her thoughts in chaos. She clearly remembered Jungkook's words from that night, "If you get pregnant, let me know immediately." But along with that memory came the image of Jungkook's cold and disdainful stare. The look that doubted her degraded her, as if Yin were just another cheap woman from the club. What if Jungkook questioned the child? What if he claimed the baby wasn't his? Those doubts haunted Yin, tightening the pain in her chest. Finally, with swollen eyes and ragged breaths, Yin made a decision. She would keep all of this to herself. She didn't want anything to do with Jungkook anymore. It was better to resign from her job, stay away from him, and all the painful memories tied to that place. She had to leave Seoul, not just to get away from Jungkook, but also to escape the debt collectors chasing after the loans left behind by her parents. She had to start over elsewhere, find a new job, and raise this child on her own. Jungkook stood on the second floor of his club. As usual, he was overseeing the packed venue, which never seemed to run out of guests. Ever since that night, Jungkook had avoided getting drunk. He couldn't risk making the same stupid mistake again. Where is she? His sharp eyes scanned the crowd, searching for someone he hadn't seen in days. Yin was nowhere to be found, but Jungkook wasn't someone who kept track of his employees. That wasn't his level of concern. That was Lee's job. Still, deep down, Jungkook had been waiting for Yin to come to him. Honestly, if she were pregnant with his child, he was willing to take responsibility, though he couldn't deny that a part of him still harbored doubts, especially since he had believed she wasn't a that night. But if she hadn't come to see him by now, it likely meant she wasn't pregnant. That was the conclusion Jungkook came to. Even so, curiosity lingered. Lee. Yes, boss. Has any of the staff resigned recently? Jungkook asked casually, not wanting to make it obvious he was referring to Yin. Lee frowned slightly. This was unusual. The boss rarely inquired about staff matters. Still, he answered, "Yes, boss. Park Yin resigned about a week ago." Jungkook froze for a second. So she really had resigned. Did she give a reason? He asked in a steady tone. "I don't know, boss. She didn't explain anything." Jungkook nodded and motioned for Lee to leave. His thoughts now swirled with uncertainty. What had happened to her? But Jungkook just shrugged to himself. Whatever. Maybe she found a better job. Or, if she really is pregnant, she'd come to me if she believed the baby is mine. But if she is pregnant and doesn't come to me, it means she knows the child isn't mine. It could be from someone else. That was Jungkook's reasoning. If Yin was pregnant but didn't have the courage to face him, then it meant she couldn't claim it was his child. 4 years later. Mommy, mommy. A handsome little boy ran through the small rented house, calling for his mother. In that tiny home, Chanwa's voice echoed clearly. Yin, the mother, looked at her son with affection as he stretched out his arms, wanting to be picked up. What is it, sweetheart? Yin asked, planting a kiss on the chubby cheek of her 3-year-old son. I want ice cream, he said with the unclear speech typical of a toddler. Ice cream, huh? Yin murmured. She lifted Chanwoo into her arms. How about tomorrow, honey? I don't have money today, she said softly, her voice tinged with sadness. After deciding to leave Seoul, Yin now lives with her only son in the rural village of Pohang. The child was the result of her relationship with Jungkook. Thankfully, she had some savings left at the time, and she was truly grateful that the neighbors in this village were kind and welcoming. She now worked at a small bakery with just enough salary to get by. At first, Yin had wanted to give up. She even considered ending her pregnancy. But after losing both her parents, the loneliness was unbearable. She had no family left. So, without realizing it, she began to hope that this child would be born and stay by her side. And it turned out to be true. Even though life was hard and full of struggles, now, Yin felt stronger and no longer lonely. She smiled as Chanwoo hugged her tightly. Okay, mommy, but you have to promise you'll buy me ice cream when you have money, okay? Yin forced a smile and nodded, holding him close and kissing his cheeks over and over. Deep down, she wanted to cry because she couldn't fulfill her son's simple wish. But what else could she do? Her remaining money was barely enough to buy their basic necessities, so she truly had to be frugal. This week, Jungkook was on a vacation trip to the beach. For the past few days, his mind had been filled with the figure who had disappeared from his life for the past 3 years. Jungkook didn't understand. He should have forgotten Yin long ago. He was confident that she wouldn't have any impact on his life. But lately, for some reason, he kept thinking about her. Jungkook left his busy work behind and drove to a beach in a small village in Pohang. His luxurious black car stopped at the edge of an open field that connected directly to the beach. Without removing his sunglasses, Jungkook confidently stepped out of the car, followed by his 3 bodyguards. His appearance naturally drew attention. but Jungkook didn't care. He sat down on a beach chair, his eyes gazing into the distance, lost in thought. Mommy, thank you for buying me ice cream. You're welcome, honey. Are you happy? Yes, Mommy. Let's go home after this, okay? The sun's getting too hot. Chanwoo's skin could get burned. Okay, Mommy. Laughter and cheerful chatter, mostly from a child's voice, could be heard afterward. Jungkook felt disturbed by those voices. He turned his body, and his eyes widened as he saw the woman he had been thinking about now holding a small child. Wait, a child? Jungkook observed Yin and the child more closely. He wasn't mistaken. That woman was Yin. Then, who was the child she was carrying? Why did he call her mommy? Blood rushed through Jungkook's veins. His heart pounded fast. His fists clenched as his sharp gaze locked on the toddler. Why? Why does he look exactly like me? Jungkook froze. That boy's face reminded him exactly of how he looked as a child. The resemblance was striking. Even the boy's eyes and nose were duplicates of his. Without thinking, Jungkook stood up. He had to confirm it. Yin. She turned around, startled. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw Jungkook standing before her. Why was he here, sir? Yin lowered her head nervously. She tightened her grip around Chanwoo. She was afraid that Jungkook would take Chanwoo from her. That piercing gaze of his hadn't changed. It still had the power to intimidate. Why are you here, sir? Yin finally managed to ask after gathering enough courage. Chanwoo looked between his mother and Jungkook, confused. Mommy, who is he? But Yin didn't answer. She couldn't. Yin. Jungkook called her again, his tone flat but heavy with pressure. Who is this child? He looked closely at Chanwoo, whose face was unmistakably similar to his. You were pregnant with my child that time, weren't you? No, sir. Yin quickly denied. She didn't want to admit it. He's my child, with another man. She lied. Even saying it made her heart ache deeply. Her eyes welled up, but she held back her tears. She had to stay strong. Like you said back then, I'm just like those other women at the club. I sleep with many men, so this child is from one of them. Jungkook's heart sank. Yin was throwing back the cruel words he had once said to her, but somehow, hearing her claim that she had slept with many men deeply unsettled him. Still, Jungkook couldn't believe the child was someone else's. The resemblance was too strong. The boy Yin called Chanwoo looked just like him. I don't believe you. We need a DNA test. No need. Yin refused quickly, afraid. She was terrified Jungkook would take her child away. You have to. No, sir, I won't. I can. You have to, Yin. Jungkook insisted again. Then he turned to his men and instructed them to approach. Get in the car quietly. Or do you want me to use force? Yin's lips tightened. She couldn't argue. Jungkook's bodyguards were now right beside her. She could scream. She could fight. But she didn't want to cause a scene. Besides, Jungkook would definitely win. His presence was overwhelming, his aura terrifying. Chanwoo clung to her neck, sensing the tension in the air. Yin gently patted his back, whispering calming words. She didn't even believe herself. Her heart pounded in her chest, full of fear and uncertainty. What would happen next? Would Jungkook take her son away? In the end, with trembling steps and a heavy heart, Yin followed Jungkook and climbed into the car, unwillingly stepping into a storm she had tried so hard to avoid for the past 4 years. A few days later, the DNA test results made Yin lower her head in resignation. Chanwoo was undoubtedly Jungkook's son. The result showed a 99% match. There was no more room for denial. She looked down at Chanwoo, who was now sleeping peacefully in her lap, her gaze full of sorrow. Would she be left alone again after this? Would she have to raise her child alone once more? The thought alone made her heart ache. Jungkook stared intently at Yin. He was shocked by the result. There was a strange mix of emotion, relief, amazement, and even joy upon realizing he was the father of this adorable little boy. But at the same time, he was still angry, still hurt. Why had Yin hidden this from him? Chanwoo stirred in his sleep, slowly blinking, his big, round eyes open. Innocent, absolutely endearing. Jungkook stepped closer to Yin and crouched down until he was eye level with the boy. Yin looked at him, confused and unsure. Chanwoo, do you want to have a daddy? The toddler frowned a little, trying to understand. Then, adorably, he nodded. Jungkook smiled and gently stroked Chanwoo's cheek. For the first time, his skin touched the soft skin of his own child. A wave of emotion washed over him. Until now, he had kept his distance because Yin had been so protective, clearly avoiding letting Chanwoo get close to him. Chanwoo, I'm your daddy. From now on, call me daddy, okay? Chanwoo blinked, his lips pouting slightly. Daddy? You're my son, and I'm your daddy. Chanwoo's eyes sparkled. He nodded enthusiastically. I want to. I want a daddy, he said excitedly. Jungkook chuckled softly and ruffled his hair affectionately. Then he looked up, his gentle gaze sharpening into something firm. Yin sat frozen, her face pale. We're getting married. Soon. It didn't sound like a proposal, it was an order. No, sir. I can raise Chanwoo on my own. Don't be selfish, Yin. Jungkook cut in firmly. Chanwoo needs both his parents. I won't let him grow up without his dad. And I won't let my son lose his mom either, he said with finality. I'm doing this for Chanwoo. You need to understand that. Once again, Yin could do nothing but surrender. Jungkook was too strong, too dominant to resist. She gave in, not for herself, but for her son. Whatever happened to her didn't matter. As long as Chanwoo was happy, she would be too. After all, he deserved to grow up with his father's love. Maybe it was better for her to step back. For Chanwoo's sake. The wedding between Yin and Jungkook was held simply at a hotel. This time, Jungkook honored Yin's request, and only close friends and relatives were invited. Since Yin had no family members close to her, she didn't invite anyone. After the wedding, Yin moved into Jungkook's large house. Jungkook came downstairs from the second floor with Chanwoo in his arms. Their little boy had just finished his bath. The scent of baby soap clung to him, and Jungkook couldn't resist planting kisses all over Chanwoo's face. Yin smiled softly. Scenes like this warmed her heart. She got up to greet her husband and son. I made your favorite food, Jungkook. Since they got married, Jungkook asked Yin to call him by his name. It would be too strange if she kept calling him sir. Jungkook only glanced briefly at her before setting Chanwoo down in the baby chair beside him. Yin kept trying to smile. Do you want me to get it for you? No need. I can do it myself, he replied flatly. Yin sighed in disappointment. She had lost count of how many times Jungkook had turned down her help. I want mommy. Chanwoo's cheerful voice brought her smile back. Here you go. Yin placed a plate full of food in front of him. Eat a lot, okay? She stroked his head. Want mommy to feed you? Usually, Chanwoo ate more when fed by his mom. The 3-year-old was already quite independent when eating. His smart little brain made him quick to absorb information. I'll do it, Jungkook said, looking at Yin with a sharp gaze. Okay. But those sharp eyes instantly turned gentle when he faced Chanwoo. Yin's heart sank. It had been a week since their wedding, but Jungkook still treated her coldly. He could be a loving and tender father to Chanwoo, showering him with affection, but not to her. Jungkook remained distant. Yin gave a faint, bitter smile as she watched him patiently respond to Chanwoo's jumbled chatter. It's okay, Yin. As long as Chanwoo is happy. After all, she remembered, Jungkook had married her only for Chanwoo. For a moment, Yin thought about it. She knew Jungkook still saw her as cheap because he assumed she wasn't a that night. She wanted to defend herself even now, but what for? She couldn't even explain it herself why she hadn't bled. In this mansion, they slept in the same room, on the same bed, under the same blanket, and yet, Jungkook still treated her like a stranger. He always slept with his back to her. Yin had tried so many times to build warm conversations, but Jungkook always responded coldly. Once again, Yin let out a quiet sigh and forced a small smile. At the very least, for Chanwoo, she would endure it. Watching Jungkook love their son so deeply was enough for her. At least Chanwoo would live comfortably and have a decent and happy life with his father. That was all that mattered to her. This Saturday, Jungkook was surprised by the arrival of two strangers claiming to be debt collectors. Where's Yin? What do you want with my wife? Jungkook asked without a hint of fear, even though the 3 men standing in front of him were large and tattooed. Jungkook assumed the man speaking was their boss, and the other 2 were likely his bodyguards or collection team. Jungkook hadn't invited them in. It was pure chance that he himself had opened the door after one of his own bodyguards reported that someone was there to collect a debt. Your wife still owes me money, the man said arrogantly. So it's true. That shameless woman is already married to a rich man, but still refuses to pay her debts. How disgraceful, he added with a sneer. Hearing those words made Jungkook clench his fists. His pride felt stomped on. He glared coldly at the man before pulling out a checkbook from his wallet. Write down how much my wife owes you. I'll settle it right now. The man smirked and quickly scribbled an amount. Jungkook didn't care how much he wrote, even if it was exaggerated. All he cared about was getting them out of his sight and away from his wife. From now on, don't ever bother my wife again. There is nothing left between you. Of course, no problem, the man replied, grinning as he kissed the check with satisfaction. After they left, Jungkook re-entered the house with a clenched jaw and immediately grabbed his wife by the wrist, dragging her into their bedroom. Yin flinched in surprise when Jungkook suddenly dragged her into the bedroom. She had just finished putting Chanwoo to sleep. Jungkook immediately locked the door. He sat Yin down on the couch in their room. His sharp gaze and flushed face clearly showed he was angry. "Are you trying to humiliate me, Yin?" Yin frowned in confusion. What was Jungkook mad about this time? There were loan sharks at the door today, Jungkook pointed out sharply. They were here to collect your debt. His words shocked Yin. "You're the wife of Jeon Jungkook, but you have a huge debt with a loan shark. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice rose. "You've completely disrespected me, letting them come here to collect money like that." Yin shook her head quickly. This time, she refused to be blamed without speaking up. "Jungkook, I didn't mean to embarrass you. The debt belongs to my late parents." Yin's breath started to hitch. "I've been trying to pay it off all this time, but ever since I stopped working at the club, I couldn't afford it anymore," she added, her chest tightening from the memory. "I didn't know they were still looking for me." "Then why didn't you tell me?" Jungkook yelled, furious. He felt ashamed. The wealthy Jeon Jungkook had a wife with loan shark debts. "Because you don't care about me," Yin shouted back, her voice breaking. "You don't care about me," she repeated, tears finally falling from her eyes. "How could I suddenly talk to you about debt when you don't even look at me?" Jungkook exhaled in frustration. He walked toward her and held both of her shoulders tightly. "Do you know why I've stayed angry with you all this time?" His stare sharpened further. "Because you hid our child from me," he said in a low, tense voice. "You never told me when you were pregnant with my child. That's cruel. You let him grow up without his dad." Yin froze, her heart breaking. She stared blankly at him. "If I hadn't run into you that day, I might never have met Chanwoo," he added bitterly. "You thought I was a bad woman back then. That's why I was too scared to tell you." Yin defended herself in a trembling voice. "But the fact is, you weren't a Jungkook cut her off, his voice shaking. "There was no after that night, which means you'd already done it with another man." "Even so, you should have told me. You could have been honest. If you were really confident, you could have demanded a DNA test. It would have solved everything. But instead, you ran away and let Chanwoo grow up without me." "Jungkook, I swear I never did it with anyone else. You were the first," Yin said earnestly, her eyes filled with honesty and resignation. She was exhausted. "I don't know why there was no but I swear, I was still a before you." Silence fell over them. Jungkook remained uncertain whether to believe her or not. Her eyes and expression showed no signs of lying. The DNA test already proved Chanwoo was his, but the disappointment in his heart lingered because she ran away, and because he'd assumed she was like the other women from the club. Yet, hearing Yin's explanation now, his heart slowly began to soften. Suddenly, Yin remembered something. "Jungkook, when my dad was still alive, he used to take me horseback riding." She paused, digging into a memory that had been buried for years and only now resurfaced. "One time I fell off the horse, and I bled down there. I didn't tell my dad because I was embarrassed. Everything seemed fine afterward, so I forgot about it. I never thought about it again until just now." She looked directly at him. Could that be why? Jungkook stared at Yin in silence, once again searching her eyes for any lie, but found none. "Yeah, that could be it," he finally said. His voice was softer now. Yin smiled, relieved that Jungkook believed her. She suddenly felt foolish for never trying harder to explain things to him. The truth was, Jungkook was still someone willing to listen, if only she had tried. But back then, she had been too angry and hurt. She had known that Jungkook was strongly against casual intimacy. Everyone, all the staff at the club, knew it too. Jungkook refused to be touched by women. That only made her even more scared back then. Jungkook exhaled harshly, lifting his head and sighing deeply. So all this time, his anger had been based on a misunderstanding? "Jungkook, you're such a fool." He looked at Yin again. This time, his gaze was gentle. He smiled warmly. "I'm sorry for accusing you of not being a Yin nodded. "I'm sorry for all the cruel things I said to you." Then Jungkook took her hand, holding it tightly. "And I'm sorry, because in the end, it was me who hurt you." Yin smiled. "I can't fully blame you. If the situation were reversed, if I thought you were a player and I was the it would have upset me too. And if I suddenly came to you claiming I was pregnant with your child, when you already had doubts about me, it's only natural for you to question everything. No man would want to be trapped like that. If I really had lied and used you, it would have been awful. What you did was just being cautious. There are so many women out there who trick men into taking responsibility for children that aren't theirs." Jungkook smiled, gripping her hand even tighter. "Thank you, Yin. And I'm sorry again." Yin shook her head. I don't completely regret what happened back then, because in the end, Chanwoo's presence made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. Jungkook smiled gently and pulled Yin into his arms. Let me make it up to you. I'll make you happy, give you a family, give you comfort, give you love, give you so much happiness that you'll never feel alone again, that you'll truly be happy. Yin nodded and smiled. I'll hold you to that promise. Jungkook smiled again. Alright then, Mrs. Jeon. From now on, if I mess up, you can punish me however you like. Yin chuckled. Okay, just wait for your punishment if you break your promise.
But if you